Awesome. Thanks everybody for being here for the March 28th Fortuna Chamber meeting. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa Sanderson.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Bob, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Sure. Please join me, everybody. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfecto. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Do we have any new members today? I'm not seeing anybody. We know all these wonderful people. This is great. All right, let's go to Renee for her list of announcements.
I do. I got a big list. Oh, it feels so good to actually have things to announce again. So this Thursday at 12 o'clock, we're doing a ribbon cutting ceremony for our new member business, Found in Fortuna Thrift Store. They are located in Redwood Village Shopping Center. All are welcome to attend. Parks and Recs is hosting a spring break camp from April 11th through the 15th for children ages 5 to 12. You can get more information by calling the Parks Department at 725-7620. The annual Fortuna State of the City breakfast is back on the calendar. I'm very excited. April 28th, Thursday, doors open, 7 a.m. This will be at the River Lodge. As always, program runs 7:30 to 9, graciously and generously sponsored by Redwood Capital Bank. Thank you, Bob Judavine. And CC Catering will be our caterers for that event. Tickets will go on sale on Friday, April Fool's Day, but it's not a joke. So be sure to look at fortunachamber.com/state of the city, or look for the paper invite that we will be mailing later this week to every member. Let's see what else. Senator Mike McGuire is hosting a town hall discussion on homeless housing and services on Tuesday, April 5th at 6:30. This will be a virtual event that you can view live on Senator McGuire's Senate website. Call us if you need the link or the dial-in number, because it's a little complicated to read over during a meeting. Next Saturday will be a Fortuna Concert Series performance featuring musical duo Lisa Lynn and Aryeh Frankfurter. You can purchase tickets at the door or online at fortunaconcertseries.com. A drive-through spaghetti feed dinner supporting our local 4-H clubs and sponsored by the Fortuna Kiwanis Club is this Sunday, April 3rd from 4 to 8 at the Fortuna Veterans Building. The Redwood Riverwalk Boutique Motel is hosting a Humboldt Hootenanny, which I just love saying that word, on April 20th. They'll have local artisans, a scavenger hunt, a raffle, live music, giveaways and snacks, and you can stop by anytime between 2 and 7 p.m. What else? River Life Foundation will have an Earth Day barbecue fundraiser at the Fortuna Veterans Building on April 23rd from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. They'll also have a silent auction and a raffle. Barbecue tickets are $10 and can be purchased at the door. And next week, our guest speaker is none other than John Gullo from the Northern California Community Blood Bank. We look forward to having him as our featured speaker next week. So with that, I will turn it back to Melissa for any member announcements and then our featured speaker.
Okay, who's got some announcements? Anybody? Becky Giacomini?
Humboldt sponsors. I got a flyer from one of the gals at the garden club on Saturday when I bought my buckets of daffodils.
Oh, that's right. Gosh darn, I just am slipping. Yes, we're having a drive-through chicken dinner. We love supporting the kids. It's April 20th. And it is at the Faith Center in Eureka, and tickets are $25 a piece. And Mr. Rex Bone is our chef. And so that would be more fun. One more drive through. Anybody that wants to cook for me, I am so there. So anyway, all the money goes back to our kids. And this year we have given Humboldt sponsors awarded 45 grants and in the total of $86,000. So this is why we do all these fun things, so we can turn around and give out to the kids, from Boy Scouts to camper ships to equipment. It's, this is our favorite time of the year. So we are honoring all our grantees that are hanging in there and still supporting our local kids. So that's why we're having the chicken dinner. So thanks for reminding me.
Okay.
Becky.
We have one chicken dinner. Amber,
Good looking.
what's going on?
The downtown merchants are gonna do a Mother's Day charm walk. And I'm still going out and getting businesses to participate. So if you know someone that has a business downtown that wants to participate in our charm walk, it's gonna be really fun. I just found out that Ferndale Jewelers is donating sterling silver bracelets. So they're gonna be super high quality. It's $25 to participate in the charm walk, and you go around to all the different businesses and collect charms in our downtown area. So
How much for a sponsorship?
well, so to participate for the businesses, it's $50, and that covers the cost of the charms.
Okay.
Um,
Do you have Eel Valley Appliance on there yet?
nope. Nope. I
Okay,
sent out emails to everybody, and I've gotten a few responses, but I'm gonna go out this afternoon and
Okay.
like,
So,
knock off ours.
I would like to do it for my business, for the journal, and then
But
I'll
you
You're
have
not
to
a
have
downtown-
location.
but
You're not
here,
a downtown merchant.
I
You
want to
can-
partner. I want to partner with Eel Valley,
Good point.
Okay, okay.
and I'll call my brother and I'll get Ross to do it too, and we'll do it together.
Poor
Can
Ross.
I not?
But it's for a whole week. So are you going to be in your brother's store the
No,
whole
and he
week?
can just have another charm. There can just be 2 charms at Eel Valley.
Good point.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, don't you want as many charms as possible? And right?
Well, the idea is to recognize the downtown merchant businesses, not Ferndale businesses.
No, I wasn't gonna do it for Ferndale. I was gonna do it for
Kidding.
the Journal, which is a media company, which is
Also in
happens to
Eureka.
be in Eureka, but we're countywide.
Yeah.
Fine, I won't do it.
I'll check. I'll run it by the downtown merchants. They're a little touchy
Yeah.
Give
sometimes.
me $50 to somebody else.
Um,
Okay.
I'm
Any other
sure they would love
questions?
some free media support for
Well,
this
yeah,
event.
apparently we're only in Ferndale. Okay. Anybody else have any comments?
Wow.
I tell it like it is, Bob.
Wow.
I tell it like it is. She just said it. She's got it recording. Okay. With that, I'd like to welcome Jane Hill from the Historical Society. There she is.
There she is. I figured out which hand shows. Got my microphone working, yay. Well, it's a shame that there's nothing going on in Fortuna. My gosh, I'm just so impressed with all of the things that you've announced. And I'm very pleased that you invited me to come and talk a little bit about the Humboldt County Historical Society. And I'm new. I joined as executive director in January, but I'm not a stranger to Humboldt County. I've lived here off and on since the early 70s and taught for 14 years at College of the Redwoods. And, you know, I have a lot of other connections in the county. And I'm so pleased that when I retired in 2007 from the Sacramento Philharmonic, I wanted to come back here, which I regard as my home because I raised my 3 children here. And now, thankfully, all 3 of them are living in Humboldt County. So, you know, it's great to be back. And if nothing else, the pandemic has shown us that we live in the best place in the world. When I think of the good air and all the places we have to walk, even when we have not been able to gather together very much until recently, it's just a blessing to be here in this beautiful county with this good air and wonderful places to walk and ways to, like Zoom, the magic of Zoom, you know, to get to know one another in a different way. So I'm grateful for that. I'm going to talk to you about the Humboldt County Historical Society. And I have some, I made myself some notes because I'm so new that I'm having to memorize what happened when. But that's true of my own life too. I've got to look at my resume to figure out where I was and what I was doing. But I'm here now, and I want to tell you that the Humboldt County Historical Society is in what is called the Gross Wells Barnum House on 8th Street in Eureka. And it's a beautiful old house built in 1902. And then in 1947, the Historical Society was begun by a bunch of people who were concerned that they weren't keeping track of local history. And that history of plain, ordinary human beings living in a place is so important and gets overlooked sometimes by the big time historians because they don't understand or don't recognize how important the life of those individuals is. And it's something that's always interested me. So in 1947, the Barnum House was bequeathed to the Historical Society. And I'm sorry, I've got that wrong. In 1947, the Historical Society began. And then in 1993, the house was donated by Helen Barnum's estate. So we've been around. This is our 75th anniversary. I have been a member off and on as I've lived here, and I've lived in a number of other places. But every time I've been here, I've joined the Historical Society because I'm so curious about our inhabitants, our settlers, our neighbors, the changes. And it's a wonderful repository. I'm here to urge all of you, if you are not members of the society, to join it. And I'm going to share some things with you, some of the reasons to join. And I want to show you now that I've learned how to share screen. Thank you very much. Let's see if I can make this work and show you. We have a wonderful quarterly publication called the Humboldt Historian. And it's just a gem. It's about 50 pages, a little less than 50 pages. And it's full of all kinds of interesting things that people have given us or donated to our archives about the county and its history and its inhabitants. So let me show you that. And yeah, okay. Let's see if this works. All right, it's probably loading. It takes a little while to load. But this is the cover of the winter Humboldt Historian. And you can see that that was an issue that featured an article about Brian Tripp's mural that was moved from the Morris Graves Museum to the Clark Museum, to the alley by the Clark Museum. And this whole issue has wonderful and interesting things in it. But the great thing about the Humboldt Historian is if you are a member, and you can be a member for $38, you can become a member. This magazine is sent to your home 4 times a year. Now, if you go somewhere to buy it, because it's out in the county for sale also, the retail price is $12. So even with my minimal 4th grade math, I can tell you that 4 issues would cost $48, which is $10 less than your membership. So there's an economic reason to join. And I'm happy to answer questions as we go along, but I'll kind of get through my spiel, what I know about it, and then leave time for you to ask questions. I know a little bit about Fortuna because my son is a special ed teacher in Fortuna, and he and my 6 grandchildren live there. So I, before the pandemic, went back and forth pretty frequently. I'm sorry to say that we're in long distance communication now for the most part, but I know a little bit about, and for my son to teach and for my grandchildren to grow up and have a lot of freedom. They have a house with a big yard, and they have a big garden, and they have animals, and it's as close to living in the country as you can get, which I think is one of the many charms of Fortuna, to be able to live in a civilized community with a lot of rural freedom. So that's a great thing. So the other thing that I want to tell you is the chief strength of the Humboldt County Historical Society, which is 75 years old. We have over 65,000 photographs. We have a huge number of archives, and we're in this beautiful old building. And one of my chief tasks as I go forward as executive director is try to protect and preserve that building. And you know, Humboldt County is full of beautiful old Victorian buildings and buildings from every era, including some examples of buildings that were here before the first settlers arrived. And we're becoming more aware of that history. And the Historical Society is really wanting to emphasize the fact that we are a place for the archives and collections of everybody in Humboldt County. And we want to be very diverse, and we want to represent many people. And you are the key to that. Many years ago, before I went to Omaha, I have a friend who called me up, and she was on the board of the Clark Museum. And she said that some people in the neighborhood, an elderly woman had died along Old Arcata Road, and there was a box of material set out to go to the dump. And this couple picked up the box and they took it to the Clark Museum. And my friend, who had a running joke with me about what wonderful thing I needed to do for her birthday every year, called me up and said, I need you to write a one-woman show based on the things in this box. Well, at that point, I hadn't even seen what was in the box, but I went and took a look and I thought, you know, I'm going to do this. So I wrote a show called Nothing Remarkable. And this woman who had lived all of her life on Old Arcata Road or near there was the only one in her family who stayed in the home all of her life. She had a brother who went to the Yukon 26 years searching for gold and hoping to get rich and never quite making it. But this box was full of his letters, full of her journal, her ledger, which was kept by not only her mother, but her sisters, where they told how many eggs they sold that week and when the first car came to Humboldt County. And I was so thrilled about this material because it is an ordinary person's history of what it's like. And the brother endlessly used this phrase called nothing remarkable, when everything he wrote about was completely remarkable to those of us who were not living in the gold mine territory of the Yukon. When he described herds of caribou and an infestation of rabbits, and having his potatoes that he had to keep under his bed go rotten because they didn't have any place to keep them. And his decoration of his cabin, where he describes how his cabin is decorated with his roommates. It's absolutely charming and wonderful. And I had a script of it that I did on a typewriter, you know. And then years later, when I came back to Humboldt County in 2007, Ben Hawkins and Chris Hawkins called me and he said, their son was a history teacher in fourth grade and they wanted to use that script for a class. Could he do that? So I said, sure. And so I dug it up and I sent it off with him. It was my only copy. And then a couple of years later, I realized, you know, I should probably get that back. So I contacted them and sure enough, they were able to return it to me. And so now I have transferred it to a computer so I can send it to Katie Bush at the Clark and say, here it is. Here's what's happened in your building in 1988 or 1989, I forget which. But again, urging people who came to see that show, go through your collection of archival materials and your photographs and identify them right on the back, as our wonderful archivist Pam Service tells us, right on the back in pencil, not in pen, identify everybody. And as Pete Palmquist used to say when he was alive here, please throw out anything that is by the rest of it and be sure that it goes somewhere when you go. So it's not left to chance, like all this wonderful collection of this dear woman out on Old Arcata Road. So now at least a lot of her story will be preserved because that script has been put onto a computer and it will be sent to her. And I'm actually hoping that Ted Pease at Senior News will also maybe run some segments of the letters from the brother in the Yukon because they are just astonishing, wonderful memories of and details of his life there, trying to haul his friend, his partner, 50 miles in a wagon to get him to a doctor when he was sick. I mean, it's totally amazing. So that's another reason why I was so happy to take this job at the Humboldt County Historical Society, because I see that as a repository of these kinds of very important memories. The two chief things that the Humboldt County Historical Society does to earn revenue is they print the Humboldt Historian, which, as I've shown you, is beautiful and full of interesting articles and tidbits. And then we print an annual calendar, which is also has a theme each year, and it's full of vintage photographs and a lot of charming little things that you wouldn't ordinarily know about people in your county. And I'm going to share screen and just sort of walk you through that. Let's see if I can do it. Share screen. Okay. And I'm hoping it's loading up for you. But this is the Humboldt County Historical Society calendar for this year, 2022. And I think that I can, let me see. I think I can go and walk you through it, but maybe I can't. I'm sorry. I taught an online class last fall at Humboldt, and it didn't seem to improve my skills much at all. But
If you click
the
into
thing
it,
that's great about this calendar,
sorry to
Pardon me?
interrupt you, Jane. I was just gonna say you could try paging down if you click in the document and then hit the page down. If it's got more than one page, we should be able to see it.
yes, it does. Okay, I'm going to try that. Let me see. I am screen sharing. I'm clicking on the document. Well, it won't surprise you to know that there's 12 months in this calendar. And each one has interesting information about something special. Oh, I wish I could do this. I don't seem to be able to change the pages, but I happen to have a copy with me. And so I can tell you a little bit about what's featured in these different months. So March, which was our birthday month, and I hope that some of you knew about our birthday party on the porch. We were closed to the public, and so we decided we still wanted to celebrate our birthday on March 3rd. So Dave Silverbrand came and hosted a birthday party on the porch, and people could drive by and honk to wish us a happy birthday, or we had cookies. They could come up and Dave would give them a cookie. And we had a big balloon bouquet. So we celebrated, even though we could not open our doors at that point to the public. I'm going to stop this share for the moment. And the thing that was wonderful about that is to say 75 years, and we are still looking for collections. So I want to urge you to become a member if you're not a member, and to talk to your friends and colleagues and families about considering bringing whatever you have in your family memoirs to the Historical Society. Our archivist would go through everything. You can call and make an appointment to drop things off, and she'll go through everything. And we don't keep things that we already have many copies of. Like lots of times people will offer us many back issues of newspapers or something. And we have quite a good collection of all of that. So she will let you know, no, we're not looking for that. But if you have family photos, if you have information about settlers in your family who've been here a long time, or even events that you've attended, we're happy to receive them. And our archives, frankly, one of my big concerns, and that I hope to work with other historical societies in the county, is I think many of us need a safe, temperature-controlled place for our archives. And I worry about that at the Barnum House, just because it's such an old building and it's so jam-packed with things. But you can come in and research anything that we have in our collection. And we tell people, because we want to support our fellow historical societies also, if you're looking for information about buildings in Humboldt County, try the Eureka Heritage Society first, because they have the best records about buildings. We have a lot of things too, but we urge people to start there. And then the Clark Museum, of course, is a fabulous museum. And they have an extraordinary collection of Native American artifacts, and they are themselves a historical building. So there's lots to see and hear here. And there's the Timber Society, and there's a Railroad Society. And so we have a lot of organizations here devoted to our history. And in my opinion, we need to work together more effectively to encourage people to save things and to encourage people to visit these collections. Every one of the major tribes has a historical collection, some of which are open to the public, and that you can contact them and go and see those things. And that's wonderful. And we're paying more and more attention to that history as part of our background for this county. I came here for the first time in 1971, 72, somewhere in there. I came from Berkeley. And my then husband, Carlo Mazzone Clementi, and I started Del Arte. And Del Arte is still going strong after almost 50 years and has totally changed the town of Blue Lake. So I see how the efforts of individuals, the interests of individuals, the preservation of history helps to shape a community and how we view a community. And that's part of what makes it so important. It's not just curiosities. It's also a record of who we've been and who we're becoming. And we're wonderful to have a perspective like that in this county. And that's part of why I am so devoted to the Historical Society. I was going to talk you through the calendar, and the January calendar was devoted to a history of the Gross Wells Barnum home where we're housed. February was about the Humboldt historian and all the interesting things that they print articles about. March was our anniversary month, but it also had a wonderful picture and a souvenir program from the old Ingomar Theater, which, as most of you know, is now the Ingomar Club. But there was the Ingomar Theater founded by the same man in Old Town, and that building has now been renovated. But unfortunately, they could not renovate the theater. And the reason for that is because it's a historic structure, they had no way to meet the current safety codes. They would have had to add an exterior staircase because the theater was on the second and third floors. Little bits of the old proscenium are back there, and I used to visit there years ago just to sort of look and see what it was like and think about the theater companies that came through town. And so unfortunately, the Ingomar Theater cannot be revitalized and rebuilt, but it's still, that building is still there, and the renovation they've done is outstanding. And then in April, we talked about the Humboldt County Caravan and picnic and automobiles lining up in Ferndale in 1907 for the first auto caravan. And I know from the letters in that wonderful box taken to the clerk that arrival of the auto in Humboldt County was a really big deal. And those young women were all vying for opportunities to drive a car that one of their brothers bought. And they would go out to Corbell and back and out to Blue Lake on those roads. And if they only had one puncture on the way, they considered themselves fortunate. So it's wonderful, charming history when we hear how it was, not just the historic events in terms of businesses, but the experiences that people had as those things came to change our history. In July, we have a huge collection of photographs by a man named Lloyd Stein. And he left these photos to the Historical Society, and we are now planning to do a virtual walking tour of Eureka based on his photos. And that's something that our archivist and one of our board members is working on now. And we're always looking for not just collecting, but new ways to connect the public with our history. And so the August issue is about the Humboldt Bay Cruise and our annual banquet and dinner, the first one that was held in 1967. We hoped to do that this year and last year and couldn't because of the pandemic. And now we're exploring whether it might be possible for us to do some version of that in June. We're looking for a location now. And usually we do that in combination with a lecture. And we are in contact with a wonderful writer who now lives in LA, but lived many years in Ferndale and did a lot of oral interviews with elderly people that she just ran into on the streets of Ferndale. And she's turned a lot of them into articles, some of which have been printed in the LA Times or the San Francisco Chronicle. And she's willing to share them with us for the Humboldt Historian, and also to come and perhaps be one of our lecturers in 2023. And it's also possible, depending on the location of our June annual luncheon and lecture, that she may come and lecture to us then again about Ferndale, because we do want to pay more attention to South County. Because we're located in Eureka, people tend to think of us as a Eureka organization, and we are not. And so we want to pay more attention. We have just helped to get the archives of Pacific Lumber Company shared among a number of historical organizations, and Garberville and Scotia and all of the points south, we want to pay more attention and make people who live there more aware that we are interested in their history too. When we first came here, we came here not to start Del Arte. We came here because we wanted a place to take our children on the weekends, and we couldn't find anywhere we could afford near the Bay Area. So we ended up, after a number of expeditions, buying a place at Panther Gap. And I don't know if any of you know the county geography well enough to know where that is. It's off 101, between 101 and Honeydew. And we bought it because it had a barn and a little cabin, and we began coming there with the kids. And then we started doing workshops with our Berkeley students there. And that led to our performing in Ferndale with those students, and then eventually finding the building in Blue Lake that became the home of Del Arte. So you can see I have a long and varied experience with the county. And that's why in my elder years, it seems like a logical choice for me to be at the Humboldt County Historical Societies, and being practically a historical relic myself, and to continue with saving these histories that are so important to all of us. We have a bookstore, and people, when we're open to the public, and we hope that's going to be soon after April 1st, depending on where the county ranks in the danger zone of COVID. But we really want to reopen to the public and to again serve people who are doing research. And if you are, you can go to our website, humboldthistory.org, and find out, you can become a member there, and you can find out a lot about all the things that we do and all the things that are in our collection. And we're there to serve the public. We're not just there, we're not a museum. We have a bookstore. We wouldn't have any way to be a museum in this facility, and we don't need to be, because there's other good museums in Ferndale and the Clark and other places. I take my grandkids to the Fortuna Depot Museum, which is great and so interesting to them to see how kids in that Victorian era lived. So we have a rich county in history, and we all need to work together to preserve it and to support it. So I hope you will consider donating things to the society, and best of all, becoming a member of the society. Because as I say, you'll get that gorgeous Humboldt historian, and we'll have a new calendar coming out in the fall. You will find it around town, and you can also buy things at our bookstore. When we're open again, you can come in and look. We have a very big collection of books, and we have some new books coming out by Jerry Rhodey, who some of you, if you're history fans, you know Jerry's work. So, you know, we're a service organization, and we also are really interested to have people come and visit us and say, you know, I wish you could do this. I wish you could do that. I wish personally that we could rewire the building. And believe me, I am looking for ways to get some grant funds to do just that, which I know will be very expensive, but that is a way to keep our archives safe, temperature controlled, and not in fire jeopardy, we had a building across the street from us on 8th Street that burned to the ground a couple of years ago. And the Historical Society staff, I was not on the staff then, but they stood upstairs on the 2nd floor balcony and watched that building burn to the ground and prayed that the wind would not shift in their direction. And now that's an empty lot. You know, I say, oh, an empty lot. Maybe that could be an archive warehouse. I, being a theater person, have a very rich fantasy life. And so I think I now have the perfect job to exercise that. So I'm really happy to answer any questions you might have. I wish I could share more information from this beautiful calendar. But, you know, you can still get the calendar, call the bookstore, and they'll sell it to you and send it to you. And there's many months left in this year. Okay, I'm happy to turn this over to whoever it is, Renee or.
I can run the ship now, if you don't mind.
Good.
Yeah, any questions? I don't know if Mike Johnson would like to say a few words. I know Alex Service here at our Fortuna Depot Museum. She does an excellent job.
And she's the president of our board, by the way, our new president, and she's fabulous. She's really good because she knows what our mission is, and she's a very good organizer.
Yeah, and she comes up with some great information and grave matters that they do every October. It's just fantastic. And I highly recommend people check out that event when it comes back around right before Halloween. But Mr. Johnson, did you want to say anything?
I would just say that I have enjoyed the Humboldt Historian magazine over the years. My membership has lapsed. A lot of things happened the last few years. It seems like it kind of caught our attention and diverted us.
Right.
But and I thank you for your comments on the Depot Museum. It's a showpiece for Fortuna, I think. It's and I know Doug Strell has put a lot of time and effort into the historical items that are in there and helping research things. And he's a resource for local history here in Ronerville and Fortuna.
Right.
And I hope that I get a chance to get back and get my membership fired up, and because I have enjoyed the magazines greatly.
Well, you know, Mike, I'm going to use my influence to be sure they let you rejoin. That would be great. And you're right. It's a terrific magazine. It's just fascinating. And the other thing I forgot to tell you about is that the Bayshore Mall very kindly offered us 2 huge store windows next to the DMV to put up a display about our 75 years of history. And so if you go to the Bayshore Mall for anything, the other thing they just did is they moved, there were 3 benches in front of the DMV, and they moved down one to be in front of our windows. So you can sit there and look at what's in the window. And Alex brought in some costumes from the 40s to celebrate our beginning in the 40s. And so there's some clothes there and lots of articles and examples of newspapers and things. So you go down and shop and sit for a while and enjoy that. And the Clark Museum also has 3 display members there, windows there across from the DMV. So you can kind of get a little taste of history while you do your shopping.
Well, that's a great thing. And I have to say that Alex is a treasure.
Yes.
She's very diligent in what she does. She's knowledgeable.
Yep.
And she has done a remarkable job with grave matters, which is, for lack of a
isn't
better
that
way,
fun? What a fun idea.
living history, you might say.
Yeah.
So,
It is. When I was raising my children here, my youngest daughter particularly, I have always been a cemetery fan and think of it as a wonderful, it's not a gloomy place to me. It's a collection of history. And I would take my youngest daughter to the Myrtletown Cemetery, and she would ask questions about why were there so many children's graves? And I could explain to her, because in those days, they didn't have the medical ways of treating some of those diseases. And if one kid in the family got it, they were all likely to get it. And I have to also confess that for my 50th birthday, and I won't tell you how long ago that was, I bought a grave in Blue Lake Cemetery. And that was my birthday present to myself. And I've kind of had a birthday party there every year since. And when I lived in Omaha, I borrowed a cemetery. I went to the Prospect Hill Cemetery in Omaha, which is another historic cemetery. And there were the graves of many famous people there through the years. And I've always felt welcome and thought that's a great place to celebrate life. And so that is true of my plot in Blue Lake Cemetery. And I try to visit there every year, and I'm happy that I still can. And I'm still here to do it.
Like, I think the phrase is every day above ground is a good day. So
Yes.
yeah,
It is. It is, and very meaningful.
yes. But getting back to the grave matters, it really brings the history to life, and it's such a fantastic event, especially here in Fortuna. I know
Right.
I grew up in Ferndale. There's a lot of amazing headstones in Ferndale as well, and a lot of of history there, and it's just fascinating. One of the treasures I found buried in our office was chamber meeting minutes from the 40s.
Great.
And they're so fascinating to me. I loved it.
Great.
And yeah, they're all like hand typed and then glued into the hardback journal, and it's so great. And they had a meeting where they discussed Hawaii becoming a state, and I mean, yeah, I love that.
It's really special, and it's great. I think it's especially great for our children to have a sense of that history. That no, we're not the recent arrivals here. There people have been here a long time. And there's something I got in the email the other day about a building. I forget where it is. It's a building that's going to be torn down because, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the details. But I'm thinking about that how often that happens, and that we don't pay attention to, are there remnants of that history of whatever that is disappearing. The thing that's fascinating about those letters from the brother in the Yukon is he talks about where they went to school. He talks about an old steamboat, and he talks about so many things in Eureka that I would never have known if they weren't captured in those letters. So, pay attention, people. Save your own letters, save the letters from and photographs of your relatives, and think about, not is this nationally or internationally significant? Is this meaningful to some child who 10 years from now will want to know something about these people and what life was like here? Even this period of the pandemic is going to be in a very important period of our history, and we need to save our remembrances of them, and things like all the Zoom meetings that we had as a result, the new skills we acquired thanks to the pandemic. So thank you again so much for inviting me here. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to learning more of your history and getting to know more of you. There are some of you whose names are really familiar to me because of my years teaching at CR. Like, is anyone there related to Joe Giacomini? I don't know, probably some of you are, but when you've been here any length of time, as I have been, these names begin to ring a bell with you, and you say, oh, wait a minute, I know somebody who's related to somebody who's related to somebody. And it's fun, and it's part of the reminiscing that's fun. And Mike, thank you so much for what you said and what you do. And we look forward to having you back in the society. And we'll deliver your Humboldt historian if we need to. We can even give you back issues. I can arrange for that.
Hey, Jane, if you team up with Amber, maybe you can deliver the calendar and some Girl Scout cookies for Mike.
All right.
Any final thoughts or comments before we let everybody go?
Great program, Jane. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you, Becky.
And keep up the great work. History is important, and I'm
invite me
glad.
back next year in March, and I'll report on the progress in our 76th year. I won't bring any trombones.
We will definitely do that. Thanks, everybody. Be sure to tune in next week when John is our featured speaker, and he's going to tell us all about the Northern California Community Blood Bank. So take it easy. Thanks, everybody, for being here, and see you next week. Bye.